Welcome back to the next lesson, in which we now want to talk a little bit more about using the groups, getting into a procedural approach for modeling inside of Houdini. And I also want to talk with you a little bit about expressions in channels. So this is another really important lesson if you later want to use Houdini really to its potential. So let's take a look here what we have. We've used here a bunch of poly extrude nodes, and in the last lesson we've learned that we want to have groups. You remember we've generated here this group with the name top. It's a primitive group, and this group here is changed by every of these poly extrude nodes, and it's used again and again. And what I did in the last lesson to show you how to add top always at the top of the group was I copied the node by holding down the Option key, and then I relinked it, reset it here with Control middle mouse button, click the node, and I used it like that here. I want to show you a little bit more what you also can do. So we have now our lip here. So it went out, up, and in. And the next step I want to do is I need another inset extrusion. The reason for this is really simple. We have this CoffeeCup which is isolated because you have a hot fluid in it. And so you have two paper walls, and between these two paper walls you have a little layer of air. So we have a little gap between this. That means that we also have to model here the inside of the cup, and this is now the thing we want to do. So the first thing is we need to insert here. So another poly extrude node. And instead of copying now the node like we've done before, I press the S key for coming here to my selection tool. And if you take a look here, you remember we have here the different components which you can select. We need polygons, so I use here my keyboard shortcut. 2 is points, 3 is edges, 4 is primitives, or polygons if you come from another 3D application. And then there is a drop down here which helps you selecting a whole bunch of stuff. For this we have to know that we have a group here inside of the stream. You remember that we used here this menu here which you can activate, and you see in the primitives mode we have this top group here which I colored by clicking here on the color field green here, only to see it better while I'm recording. What you can do now are different things. You can go over the group here, make a right mouse button click, and tell that you want to add this thing to the selection. If you do that, you see you have now a yellow overlay, which means now it's a part of the selection. So if I now go with my C key into my radial menu, use poly extrude here, you will see that now instead of the number of the primitive here, we have now this group here in the field. This is one way of working. I delete that. I show you a different approach. Another approach could be, I close this window for a moment, the group is still there. S, I go here into this drop down and say, I want selecting for the next selection a geometry group. So geometry groups. And then this menu seems to open again, but it's not activated because the selection tool has here its own icon for that. It's a select groups or connected geometry. And you see, if you press the keyboard shortcut 9, you can use that. So if you press 9, this here is active. And if you now click here on this top polygon here, you will see that in the list now top is yellow. And if you now add the node, you can use the C key, or let's do poly extrude this time from the menu. You will see that top is also now in the list. So the keyboard shortcut 9 is good, or you use the drop down. Okay, enough about that. Now we need to change the insert. So I make it smaller. Okay, it's a really small insert, something like that. Let's use nice numbers. Yeah, we can change them later. 0.025 and name it. That's important if you want to work procedural inside of Houdini. Takes more time than direct modeling where you select, do something. In procedural modeling, we try to document everything because we want to change later these nodes, and it's more like a clean tree, like a new Fusion. We document everything through names and colors and so on. So let's name this thickness top. Okay, and the next step we now have to do here is I want to bring this face down here, because now we have this thickness here and I need here the inner paper. To do that, we select again our top. So how to do that? We have 9 still active. Top is still active. Wonderful. We go here, Poly Extrude, and now I can change the distance here. I bring it down, 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 down. It stops here with 1. But if you want to go deeper, you can do one of two things. You can use your middle mouse button key here and use the value ladder. Works all the time. Or what you can do is, for example, you can also make here a bigger number into that, and then you see the slider now works for a small amount of time in this value size. I go back here to my handle tool. I want to show you another thing. For this, I switch here with spacebar 4 to the right view here. And if you want, you can use W key at the moment, but I know here is my insert. And if you now bring this down here, you come to the outside. What I want to do now is I want to bring it down until I reach here the points. And to do that, we can activate snapping. You see here some snapping options. Here is the point snapping. And if you want to use a radial menu, you can use the X key here, go to point snapping. Then you select here your divider or this HUD element. And then you see it snaps here. And so you come really to the point that you are exactly here at the bottom of the thing. Now this bluish means you look to the backside of polygons. The reason for this is it's too big. Why? Because we inserted the whole thing when we extruded it up. So what we need now is an insert here. So let's make an insert here until the blue is gone. And if you go back here with spacebar 4, press the W key here to see through the whole thing, so it's wireframe, you see now this little gap here. And now you can try to figure out how deep you have to go. Okay. Let's name this height inner. Okay, great. I think until this point you find out that this here is ugly. The reason for this is I want to have a procedural object. That means I want to change maybe the cup later because your client wants to have it taller, or the angle is not right, the thickness of a lip is not right, and so on. And for this, Houdini is really good in changing these values through every step, which is here documented through parameters. But we will break the model if you do a change here. For example, I go here to the height. And if I now want to change the overall height of our object here, you will see, yeah, the height changes, everything goes well here because we have used groups, but this height here doesn't change. So we have then to go here to height inner and change that again and so on. For preventing that and to be more clever at this point, we use channel references. We can use channel references with two different kind of languages, which we have here. The older one is named HScript and the new solution is Python. And in this tutorial, I want to show you a little bit about HScript. And if you take now a closer look here, on a node here, you see that there is a big H, which means this is HScript. You can click here and change this node to Python, which means then you have to code with Python in the channels. But we stay with HScript for this tutorial. And the idea behind this is now that we connect channels. So it's a channel expression. So let's think about that. If we have, for example, here something really simple, lip out and lip in. These two are connected. Let's check this. I go with my display flag here. And a little tip here, if you are working in a big tree and you want to check something, you don't need to zoom in and search here for the display flag. There are keyboard shortcuts for this. And these are really useful. So if you select a node and press the R key on your keyboard, you see that you get a display flag. If you press the E key, which is on the left of the R key, you set a template. So it's really fast. It's a toggle. So select something, R key, and it sits and you directly can see it. Okay, Let's check now the lip here. You see, in this poly extrude here, we brought the lip out here, and this was the amount here in inset, how much we went out. And this is something we maybe want to change later because this is important. Every node which I use as a driver or where I want to have parameters which I later want to change, I normally color red. So select this node, press the C key to get the color palette here and make it red. Okay. And then we can go into the node and hover here over the word insert. And yeah, let's check if we get here, yeah, this little window. In the moment it doesn't work, but you will see that it's named insert here. So this is the name of the parameter. And what you now can do is we can tell now lip in, which needs exactly the same amount here, the same distance here, that it should reference to that here. There are different ways of doing that. The most easiest way of doing that is you go with your mouse over the parameter, right mouse button click, and say copy parameter. Then you go to the node where you want to place now your reference. And here, insert, this is something we want to drive. And if you come from Maya, for example, you know the concept of drivers. So it's really close to that. We go now into this field here, we remove this value here, make a right mouse button click, and instead of pasting a value, we paste now a relative reference. The moment we do that, you get an expression here. It's a little bit longer, so I go with my left arrows in. You see channel, and inside of the brackets there's a path which tells Houdini which node it should address, lip out, so it addresses this node here, and it searches for the field with the name insert. So press enter, and you will see that now this field here is green. And if you now check this, you see something strange happens. It goes outside, but yeah, we can change that in a moment. And you see this green field means that there's an expression going. If you ever made keyframes inside of Houdini, you know that keyframes are also green. Keyframes and expressions are really close to each other because you can change also keyframes with this expression language. Let's talk now about the direction. This here copies the value, and you can see the value. If you have an expression here and you want to see which value you get from this expression, you can click here on the word insert. And it's a toggle. You see, it toggles between the expression and the value. And you see 0.05 negative, and this is exactly the value which you get from here. What we need, because we want to go into the opposite direction, is we go back here, click here, so that we see the expression, the negative of that. We can multiply this with -1, or you can be lazy, go in front of CH and type in a minus, and now you see, now it's a minus and it works like expected. Great. Let's test this. If you now go to the red node here and change that here, you see it goes out and in and everything stays in place. Great. Let's think about what we also want to change. Height, for example. I want to change later the height of this cup. So make it red. Sometimes it doesn't work directly. Okay, here we are. We have here height, which is named distance here. That's important that you know how the field is named. It's named distance. And now we want to do it by hand. So we want that this value here is used by height inner. So select this node. There's the distance. And to type it now by hand, you can go into a field. You can type directly here inside of these fields here. You see it works. But these fields are really small. So what I normally do is I go into the field and press Command E, or you can do a right mouse button, click here, Expressions, Edit Expressions, and then you get an expression editor here. Little side note, you see this expression editor is connected to this height inner node, so you can have more than one expression editor open at the same time. For example, if you go now here, make another one, yeah, And so we have more than one open at the same time, but yeah. It's only for demonstration sake, so close them and go back here to hide inner, distance, open it, and now we can make our expression. So how does HScript work? We have functions, and functions have a name, which are case sensitive, and we normally give the function arguments, which are in brackets. So we start with CH, which means channel reference, and you see this editor helps you now. If you want, you can go now with your arrow keys over them and select here something, press the enter key. I open now the bracket, and now you see a small documentation how it works. You have an overview here, you can read about that. You see the arguments, which I've talked about a second ago, so you can open it again if you like. Let's do it again so that you see it a little bit bigger. Okay, you see it's a long one. And if you want to have really the whole documentation, you can go over CH here and press the F1 key on your keyboard. And then the Houdini Help opens for you. Takes a while. Then you are in the expression functions here, and you are now in the CH expression, and now you can read about how this expression work. And I think there's a whole book for HScript here under expressions, so you can take a look here. But really easy. CH, if you are a programmer, if you open something, close it at the same time and then go between them. Then we tell a path, so I make two of these signs here. And now, how do we come from this node here to this node here? Easy idea is you have a file system. Houdini nodes here are organized like a file system. You can see that if you open here on the left side, you see maybe this collapsed area here. And if I open this area here, you see that Houdini is organized like a file system. So at the moment we are on hide inner, so we are on this node, so in this folder. So we have to go one step up, then we are on the cup here, and then we search for the name of the node which we want to address, in our case hide, and then instead of hide we search distance. So that's the whole idea behind that. Let's do that. First we have to go out of the folder, so we make 2 points, then we make a slash here. And now you see Houdini helps you. Yeah, it searches now what you can address here, and remember we are now on cup here. So you can search here for all the stuff which is there. And here you also see the icons of the nodes, and what we search is hide. So this is the node here, and now you see why naming was so important. You address hide here, make a double click. And inside of this hide node, we have now all the parameters. You remember I said distance is the thing we are searching for. So I type di, and now you see there are 2 with di, and what we search is distance here. I press enter, and that's it. Channel reference, out of the node to the parent folder, search for the name of the node, search for the parameter, that's it. Now you can click here, apply. So it's applied, you see it's green. You can click here again, you see how it works. And I think I can close that here now. And now we set the display flag here to hide inner, and look at that. Yeah, you know what happened. We used again the positive value. So we have to invert or negate this value. So make a minus in front of that, apply. Yeah, and that's it. Now you see, we are really close, but we still have a gap. Why do we have a gap? Sure, we had here added a hide here for the lib. So we also need the height of the lib. How to do that? Easy. Minus, channel reference, open, close, go out of the node. We search for something with the name lib. We search for height, and we say we want to have the distance. Apply, and test the whole thing. Now we see, yeah, we are really at the bottom here. Everything is great, but the angle doesn't fit. So close this and think about how we get the angle. The angle should be like this angle here. So we need here, in this here, this insert, and it's around 0.3 something. So where we get this, I can go here, I take here this insert, copy parameter, go to the inner, go in here, paste it as a relative reference, press enter, doesn't work, minus, does work. Look at that, looks good, we have an air pocket here, nice. And now, yeah, we can work like that all the time. That's a really nice approach of working now. Now, the next step we need is I want to have this here open and I need to close this air pocket here. So how to do that now? Let's think about that. The first thing I think about is I can blast away this polygon here. Let's do that. So we are here. If you use your middle mouse button, you see we still have the top group, which is, if you test this, S key. Here it is this polygon, wonderful. So blast away this polygon. Top. And the polygon is gone, great. The next thing is we have to close that. And we want to do it procedural. Now it's a little bit complicated at the first sight, but yeah. Let's try the first thing. To close this, maybe you use a PolyFill. But the PolyFill doesn't do the job. You see, it searches for openings and it closes them. You can help the PolyFill with the boundary groups. So if you go here and say, I want to close, for example, this here, and I select the outer edge here because I hope it finds this edge here. Press enter here, you see, yeah, it closes only that, but yeah, it closes it completely. So PolyFill doesn't work for us. What I want is I want to bridge these two edges. So for this, we have a PolyBridge. Okay, PolyBridge is not happy at the moment. Why? Because it doesn't know what to bridge. And if you have seen my Houdini fundamentals training, which you can buy on Vimeo, there I explained exactly how all these nodes work and also PolyBridge. And you remember that you have to select here edges to bridge or primitives to bridge. We can do it in a non-procedural way really easy. You can go here to the source, click here the white arrow, then we are here in edges mode. I say this edge loop, I make a double click here to make this an edge loop. I press enter to write now here the group into that. Then I go to the destination. I do the same thing here for the outer loop, double click, loop is selected, enter, and that's exactly what I want. Now this thing is closed. But the disadvantage of this here is that we have here edge numbers. And if we do something which changes the edges or so, this can break. So what I search now is a procedural way of generating these two groups here. Let's test this. Let's go here to our first group we ever created. And we have here one polygon. And what we need is this edge here, the edge which goes around this polygon. This is our outer edge we later need. And to do that now, we can convert this group, which is a primitive group, you remember, top, into an edge group. And to convert groups, you can use a group promote node. Yeah, you make promotions. So test it here in your own branch. And you see how this works. You can have more than one step. So you can here with plus make many promotions, but we only need one. We can tell now which group we want to convert. So what we want is we want to convert the top group, which is auto, which means it looks into the group and says, yeah, it's a primitive group. So it knows primitives, to a point group. And then you can name this new group. I don't want to have a point group, but first the name. We name this outer edge. And so we go now here and we don't want to convert it to points, we want to convert it to edges. If we do that now, let's make a middle mouse button click. You see, yeah, we have an outer edge group. 16 parts are in there. But you see, our primitive group is gone now. That's, yeah, a pity. We need that because I want to place this here into the stream. And to keep the original group, there's an option here. So if you tick this, you have now two groups in the stream. The outer edge, which is the edge group, and the primitive group for the top. And now I can make this here, and we name this bottom edge, for example. And this here, for example, start, or whatever you want to name that. Okay. Now we can test the whole thing again. We want to have two groups here. And let's click here, and you see this was the inner group. I don't want to change that, but I want to change this group here. You see, if I click here, let's make sure that nothing is active anymore. The destination group, I don't want to use that here. Close that and say use outer edge. And now you see, still works. Great. So the first thing is now procedural. Now we come to the last thing. How to generate this group here, which is the inner edge. For this, we can go here. Here we blasted away, everything was inside. But before that, we had here a polygon, and this is absolutely the same thing we had here at the top. So let's do the thing again. We have here our top group, which is now the bottom here. We say we need a group promote. Bring it in, test it. Say we want to have edges, and this is inner edge. And yeah, we blasted away here, so we need the group, so keep original group, and now you see outer edge and inner edge. And if you now want to check if this is right, you can use here again this indicator here. So let's go in here and test the inner edge, and I make it purplish so that you see what's going on. It looks good here, but if you press the W key, you see, yeah, we also have purple edges inside here. If you convert a polygon to edges, this group promote node also selects everything which is connected to it. And this is exactly what we don't want. Yeah, so we also get these edges here. To prevent that, you can tick here, include only elements on the boundary. And if you do that, you see nothing else is selected anymore. That's exactly what we want. So W key again. Then we blast the polygon away. Groups are still there. 16, 16. Great. PolyBridge. And now we delete this here. And hopefully, if we now select inner edge, you now see everything is closed here. And that's it. Now we have done all of that. Now let's check. We have here the height, we have the lip out, which are red, so we can change them later. Lip in is automatic. Lip height is something we maybe want to change later, so make it red. If we now go here to distance, it goes up and down, and you see the inner part still works. Yeah, everything is fine here. So we can change that now, later. Yeah, and then we have the thickness, the height inner, and so on. And what you also can check, only to make sure that we can close this tutorial now, is if we go here to height and change the divisions. Normally this breaks if you are non-procedural, you see still everything is there. And also if you go to height inner and change here the amount of polygons, everything is still there. So that's it to this point. So make this again a little bit nicer. I select all of these, press Shift L for lay out the selections, and then we make a null object here at the end. Make this blackish and name this cup paper so that we know what it is, and I save it out. You've learned now how to make it procedurally. I hope it helped you, and I know that you have to learn a little bit about groups and how to promote groups and how to approach something. If you want to learn more, like I've said, you have, with my Houdini fundamentals training, a good introduction to Houdini. It's a really broad publication of everything, which is modeling and concepts and so on. And yeah, if you have questions, please leave comments on YouTube or send me an email. I'm really happy to help. If this introduction helped you, give me a thumbs up, subscribe my YouTube channel. And in the next lessons, we will make the lid, so the cap of this whole thing, and also the bottom here. We see each other in the next lesson. My name is Helge Maus from PixelTrain. Have fun.